What's up, Spice fans? My name is Scoots.
And I'm Cicada.
And welcome to Who Brewed This, the only cEDH gameplay channel edited by Arachnos Blood Witch. Who Brewed This is all about rogue brews versus established decks. If you'd like to support us, hit the sub button, give us a like, join us on Discord for free, or just give us your feedback and suggestions. This week, we've got another special guest and friend. From the Mind Sculptors and organizer of the MLC, it's Callahan. They'll be playing their TNT Rector Fit deck. Claire is on Prosper Storm, while Cicada is on Kykar Storm Breach. Yours truly rounds it out playing Malcolm and Dargo, Pirate Tribal. Time to check out starting hands.
Callahan is starting us off with a hand that complements their game plan pretty well. They have 3 lands in Command Tower, Flooded Strand, and Underground Sea, meaning that one of them can be pitched to Mox Diamond without any issues. From there, they can drop a turn 1 Grand Abolisher to protect all their turns and also assure them draw from a turn 2 Tymna. They also have Swan Song for interaction or protection, while Mystical Tutor can be used offensively for something like a Tymna Pact if they want to try Thoracle, or defensively for more interaction. Claire's hand is a kind of gas we expect from a Rakdos Storm deck, and something you wouldn't normally be able to keep into stacks. That's why it's pretty good here. Claire has no lands, but she does have Mana Crypt and Talisman of Indulgence, which can be pushed towards a Sensei's Divining Top and a Dragon's Rage Channeler to quickly find their missing mana and lands. From there, she can easily get Prosper out or start pivoting. For instance, she has Reanimate, which is extra hot with that Channeler and the Divining Top. She also has Underworld Reach if she can find the tools to make it go. If not, Claire can also look out for value thanks to her Dauthi Voidwalker. Mulliganing down to 6, I'm not in an incredible spot, but can make do. Sculling Tarn, Exotic Orchard, and Island can keep me with enough lands to cast Gamble or Enlightened Tutor for either ramp or draw in the shape of a Remora. As a Jeskai Storm deck, I really need my card advantage here. Gamble can serve a similar purpose as the Enlightened Tutor, and end up being popped off earlier. Mox Opal currently isn't very exciting, unless I do get Kykar out. I sent a City of Brass to the bottom because I forgot no one plays Moon in Prosper. Finally, Scoots also had to mulligan down to 6, sending a Pyroblast to the bottom. He kept a single Mystic Sanctuary for land, while having Mox Opal, Sol Ring, and Mana Crypt to pretty much cast Dargo if he feels like it. In terms of pivot, he doesn't have a lot of options here. The Transmute artifact could prove very useful in the long run, and Dire Fleet Daredevil could be used, for instance, to bank on our tutors or draw spells. Being 4th, Scoots will also be able to bank on our early attempts at something with his neat little pirate.
Let the card tossing begin. Callahan starts with all their colors fixed by dropping a Command Tower, and following that up with Mox Diamond pitching Flooded Strand. They cast a Grand Abolisher and pass. Uh-oh.
That is a pretty scary start there. We have no way to stop them if Callahan tries to win turn 2.
Not to be outdone, Claire starts with a Mana Crypt into a Talisman of Indulgence. She then drops a Sensei's Divining Top and no land. Good thing this is not a noof game. Probably. Cicada also starts with a Mana Crypt. He follows that with Exotic Orchard and passes to me. Also feeling a little bit saucy, I drop my very own Mana Crypt, followed by Sol Ring, Mox Opal, and a tapped Mystic Sanctuary. The first one to drop a Dockside is going to have some fun. Toasty! I then cast Malcolm and pass.
This is the kind of start where any of our decks could literally win next turn. Of course, Callahan being the scariest on the table due to us not being able to interact with them. All they have to do is untap and drop a Thoracle plus Demonic Consultation.
Fortunately, they don't. Callahan instead plays an Underground Sea and drops a Tymna to start grinding out that value. They attack Claire with the Grand Abolisher and draw 1 off of their commander. On their second main, Callahan drops a Chrome Mox, pitching Mystical Tutor.
This was a surprise, but it could also mean many things. Perhaps Callahan already has the win. Perhaps they're pivoting in another direction. Or maybe they simply figure having the mana open is more important here, considering how anyone else on the table can just explode with the right card.
Claire looks at the top 3 with Crypt mana, dodging that damage in the process. She finds her land in Blightstep Pathway, and then swaps the top with her next card. A Jeweled Lotus. This allows Claire to cast her commander, Prosper, and then a Dragon's Rage Channeler, losing 1 life in the process. On her end step, Claire exiles the top to Prosper, and Cicada casts an Enlightened Tutor, making sure that it hits the spot on the lighting that makes it so it could be literally any card. Crypt punishes Cicada, but he then drops a fish, which resolves. He plays a Scalding Tarn after pretending to be out of resources, and then passes to me. I also take 3. I then drop a Training Grounds with the Art of Spectator seating, confusing everyone as I planned. I swing 2 in the air at Claire, making myself a treasure token. I go ahead and crack it to cast Dargo, to which Cicada responds by cracking Scalding Tarn for Volcanic Island. I follow that up with a 3rd pirate in Direfleet Daredevil for that sweet, sweet tribal feel. Oh, and for Cicada's Enlightened Tutor. Cicada's Remora triggers.
We take a moment to discuss what this could be. Callahan's concern is the type of counter magic they have available. I mentioned that Scoots is probably either going for a grind plan in Remora or Ristic, but he could just as well look for a sack outlet for Dargo. After some consideration, Callahan gives me a card as they swan song the tutor, not interested in the chance of Scoots getting an artifact out of it. They have the ability to grind us, and, as such, prefer to cut Scoots' options short. This also gives us one clue. Whatever it is that Callahan is looking to do, it's probably not that close to happening either, or at least not within reach of their hand's current pool.
After being given a lovely burb, we're on Callahan's turn once again, and still silenced by the Abolisher. Callahan swings at Cicada with Tymna and draws 1. They pass, fully open and ready to interact, or maybe they have nothing. Fat chance. Claire gets clipped by the Crypt. She casts the top, and Cicada nets his 3rd card from Fish. Claire gets 2 triggers, a treasure from Prosper and a Surveil trigger from the Channeler. She keeps the card. Claire then activates top.
This might look like a bad way to use the mana, but it actually gives Claire 2 things. First, a chance to surveil cards she doesn't want. And second, a good way to hide the top card she just saw from us, since Prosper would exile it. This way she can dodge our perception of her intentions and potential plays.
To top off her turn and join those who are out here grinding, Claire drops a Dothy Voidwalker. She goes to end step and gets another treasure, Lotus Petal, from Prosper. Cicada chooses to keep the fish and wins the crypt roll. He then thinks for a bit and casts Gamble. Callahan responds with an opposition agent, so please, for Cicada, drop your big oofs in the comments below. Claire gets a Gamble, exiled the Voidwalker, Callahan gets a Mana Vault, and now Cicada needs to discard and give Claire a 2nd card for the Voidwalker, a Mox Opal. Cicada plays a basic island and casts Time Twister here. He also saves me, as both cards in my hand were tutors. Claire chooses not to lose top at this point.
Gamble was a bit of a brain fart, considering I didn't play a fetch because I was afraid of Op Agent. However, at this point, Time Twister is the best way to try and equalize the table, while disrupting whatever it was that Callahan was going for with that Mana Vault. Possibly some culling ritual shenanigans. Callahan and Claire will have mana open for Scoots, and maybe Scoots will have something to remove the Grand Abolisher, and hope we don't die. As one does.
I untap and thankfully survived my crypt roll, dropping an island. I dash Ragavan, the bestest pirate boy, and swing in a way that everyone gets hit by a pirate, making 3 treasures plus the 1 from Ragavan. Cicada exiles a mana confluence to the Monkey. Not quite the pirate's treasure I was hoping for. I move to my end step, returning Ragavan to my hand. Unfortunately, I cannot stop Callahan's Abolisher from silencing us once again, and I fear we might be dead. Callahan plays a Cavern of Souls, naming Human. No idea why. They cast Cicada's Mana Vault, feeding a card to fish. Callahan then drops a Seedborn Muse and attacks me and Cicada to draw 2. On their second main, Callahan casts Gilded Drake to take away Claire's Prosper and some of her pivoting potential.
It could be argued that Callahan could have also named Merfolk with the Cavern and played Thrasios on second main, with Seedborn around to grind. However, this is the path where they spend the least amount of resources to shut some of Claire's power down. Besides, by partially removing Claire's Storm power, Callahan also stops her from feeding my Remora too much. They have more than enough time to wait 1 turn cycle and then go for Thrasios.
On Callahan's end step, Prosper exiles a Waterlogged Grove. Claire's Crypt attacks her life total once more. She plays Lotus Petal and gives Cicada 1 card. She also drops a Luxury Suite and then casts Culling the Weak, pitching the gifted Gilded Drake as if Callahan's good intentions mean nothing. Not only that, but Gilded Drake is exiled to the Dothy Voidwalker here. Cicada draws another card. Claire goes for a big one now and casts Bolus Citadel, drawing Cicada another card. Claire resolves the Channeler trigger, all of us having missed it before. She keeps the card and the Citadel resolves versus 2 open blue mages. A dream come true here. Claire drops Bergie, she organizes the top 3 with the Divining Top, and then casts Chromox to give Cicada another card. She mills Forbidden Orchard with the Dragon's Rage Channeler.
Quick note here, Claire could in theory dig up to 20 cards with Divining Top. However, there's an issue. Remora. If Claire doesn't find a way to deal with my fish, she will also give me roughly 20 cards as well, despite the mana she nets from Bergie. Even worse, there is no guarantee that Callahan or Scoots don't have interaction, just that they chose not to use it against Claire when she cast the Citadel.
Claire plays Soul Ring, milling a command tower, getting mana for Bergie and feeding Cicada another card. She organizes the top 3 again. Claire time twisters with the Voidwalker here. Callahan responds with Assassin's Trophy targeting my Dargo and a Worldly Tutor, giving Cicada 2 draw triggers.
The table wants a twister to resolve here. Except for me, since I have 16 cards in hand but no way to stop it. Callahan also chose to take out the Dargo over the Citadel or the Channeler because they don't believe Claire can take the match here. Not with Scoots themselves getting a new hand, and my Remora staying in play. Mostly they just want to make the most out of their hand, albeit forgetting the twister makes the Worldly Tutor moot. Callahan reveals an Academy Rector. Scoots decides not to fetch for land while the opposition agent remains in play. No idea why though. Of course, I try to cast a Force on the twister, pitching an Impulse. Scoots shows me a red Elemental Blast and I ask him if he's sure. Gotta ask. I draw 1 from Remora and consider fighting further. I have a mental misstep in hand. However, it was being saved for Claire's Red Blasts or the top. Using it here would mean we're open to Claire without the fresh 7. She could draw multiple cards while digging with the Channeler, and knowing 2 of my 3 free counter magic is gone. Also, I didn't have a winning hand, and Scoots could have more counter magic. In the end, I let it go, hoping Claire will feed the fish further while we're ready for her. Scoots snaps Claire's Bergie, and we shuffle and draw a fresh hand.
Claire casts Felwar Stone from the top and feeds Cicada 1 card. She digs through the top 3 and decides to cast her own opposition agent from hand. She also casts a Skirk Prospector and we're done. This is still turn 4 by the way. Cicada's Remora pays the ultimate price. His Crypt punches him and he drops a Spire of Industry. He casts a main phase Frantic Search, pitching a land and Izzet Charm before casting Kykar. He casts Arcane Signet and gets his very first Spirit. He also takes what feels like 1 hour to find that token and settles for a bird instead before passing. I drop a Mystic Remora of my own by the time that Cicada finds his spirit token at last. Callahan is not happy about it, and mental missteps it. I'm very happy to cast a Muddle the Mixture on that misstep, considering I'll never be able to successfully transmute that card. I win the counter war. And then Cicada, like some kind of snake, stabs me in the back with his own misstep, getting a spirit. So sad that they would do this to me and make me lose the counter war. Except, I have a Dispel and come out victorious. Whoopsie!
Very important counter war here. It could have continued, but again I didn't want us to be open to Claire. Our best hope is for her not to win or lead Scoots to winning due to storming off while feeding Scoots some cards.
We move to the phase of cEDH that is never utilized, Combat. I swing 2 in the air at Claire with Malcolm to get myself another treasure. Once that's done, I crack 3 treasures and get the other, much less intimidating pirate into play, Dargo. I top off my turn with a Mox Amber and pass. Callahan starts their turn dropping the Waterlogged Grove from the Stolen Prosper and getting a treasure for it. Callahan then casts their Thrasios, much to our dismay, especially mine since it doesn't draw me a card. Callahan casts Viscera Seer as well, which for sure is in their deck just for value and not a combo piece, I promise. They activate Thrasios and reveal an Esper Sentinel, which also gets cast. They move to end step, triggering Prosper and exiling a Mana Confluence.
The game is now at a very delicate balance. Callahan has an incredible grind machine going on thanks to Thrasios, Esper Sentinel, Seedborn Muse, and Prosper, while Scoots has the Mystic Remora. Claire having the Bolas Citadel here is great too, but she's in an incredibly hard position to try and win, especially since she can't dig with the top without giving a card to Scoots for each time she does that. If anything, at this point the game is mostly between Scoots and Callahan if spells are cast, but just Callahan's if they aren't. After all, they have Grand Abolisher in play.
Claire's Crypt starts by decreasing the amount of plays she can make by making her lose 3 after the mutual untapping happens. She activates the top to check for options. Claire sacrifices a Verdant Catacombs to the opposition agent on Callahan's side for a free shuffle, very tactical play. Cal gets a free swamp out of this, which isn't a horrible deal considering it was free. She then activates the top again, checking if anything's improved to a considerable degree. She plays LED from the top of her library, and I draw one, while Callahan also draws one from the Sentinel. Callahan then activates Thrasios in response, scries one to the bottom, and reveals a friendly Force of Will. Claire mills an Arcane Signet to the Dragon's Rage Channeler, and then LED resolves. Claire repeats this process for a Mox Amber, giving me another card, but this time keeping a defense grid on top of her library, which she casts. I draw another and pass priority to Callahan, who hard casts Force of Will to put a stop to Claire, making interacting hard, and also drawing me a card.
This might look like an overreaction at first, but it's a pretty important play. At this point, we don't know that Callahan can pitch cards to force, and making interaction harder would also span to other players' turns, namely mine and Scoots's. If Claire can find the means to fight, everything we do costing +2 is an absolute no-no. Plus, Scoots passing also puts Callahan in a position of having to decide how deep they can allow Claire to go. We knew they had the force, so in theory they could always do stuff. Pushing for display or something else makes it so that we're more aware of what Callahan can or can't do at this point.
Claire mills an Entomb with Dragon's Rage Channeler. Then she goes full-on balls deep and casts Peer into the Abyss and pays 4 mana to stop me from drawing this one time. I cast a Fierce Guardianship here to put a lid on the Peer. She then sacrifices her Skirk Prospector and casts a Mizzix Mastery, targeting the Peer and drawing me 1 card, and then another as she recasts the Peer. Now, normally, I'm not a spiteful person, But since Claire did pay 4 mana earlier to prevent me from drawing 1 card, I've decided that instead, I'll cast a Deflecting Swat on the PETA to draw half of my library instead. I'll also choose to hear the table's panic as cheering, but that's just me. Extremely low on mana, Claire cracks the LED in an attempt to find something like an Imp's Mischief while spinning the top. Claire has nothing and neither does the rest of the table, so I have to go through the pain of drawing more cards than I can hold in my tiny hands. Claire's Dragon's Rage Channeler is forced to attack, so she sends it at Callahan before passing to Cicada. He loses life to his crypt and casts a Phantasmal Image.
In this moment in time, we are pretty sure that the game is done for. All Scoots needs to do is go through the motions. We have to try whatever we can, and one of the options is getting Scoots to 10 life or less, so Claire can kill him with the Citadel. Not a very likely outcome though. What could end up happening is that this Phantasmal Image does go through, and I get to have a Grand Abolisher to try and storm off.
Callahan activates Thrasios twice, revealing a Soul Ring and a Brainstorm. He casts Brainstorm as well, giving me 1 card. I then proceed to Force of Will the Phantasmal Image, pitching a Fabricate, because I know exactly what Cicada is trying to do here, and I'm not going to let it happen. I also pay for the Esper Sentinel trigger. Cicada shows me a Muddle the Mixture, drawing me in Cal 1 and getting a Spirit. I show him a Red Elemental Blast. He fights valiantly against half of my deck, adding a Silence into the mix, which I mental misstep, and getting another Spirit while going down to 14.
We once again bring the possibility of using the Citadel. In order to move the argument along, Scoots cast an Abrade on the Citadel to push Claire into a morally unviable position when considering we're playing cEDH. Sacrificing her board and all but forcing Scoots to maybe die to the crypt would stop the Scoots menace, sure. But she also can survive Callahan's board, which would just put her in a king-making position. As such, she lets the Citadel go without any sacrifices. I throw my last hope to win anytime soon into the board, Underworld Breach, to try and push more counter magic out of Scoots. 2 spirits return to the void for that spell. Scoots spell snares my breach, and I hope that I've done enough to at least keep this game going. I also decide to take Claire out of the game here. I have 2 reasons, one being Dockside and the other being Glinthorn Buccaneer. Claire has no cards, and at this point she's just a resource for Scoots. Pushing her out could influence Scoots' turn in a positive way for me, and so I do it. Sorry Claire. Callahan loses Prosper in the process.
We go to my upkeep, and Callahan lets my Remora trigger resolve before holding priority. I pay to keep the fish. It was a pretty good one this game. Callahan sacrifices Tymna to scry 1 and get rid of the top card, which they know due to Brainstorm. They then activate Thrasios and reveal an Academy Rector. Seems pretty good with the Viscera Seer. We move to my Crypt trigger, and I take no damage. Then I play Command Tower and cast a Phantasmal Image. Callahan responds with Thrasios once again. They reveal a Vampiric Tutor. Callahan sacrifices Opposition Agent to scry 1 and keep it on top. They choose to not sacrifice the Abolisher, so I get to have a Grand Abolisher before casting Glinthorn Buccaneer. I cast Fire Giant's Fury, targeting my good old Dargo before moving to combat. I swing with Dargo and the Buccaneer at Cicada, and the Flyers at Cicada. Since Cicada's technically not dead yet, he puts 2 Flyers in front of Dargo, and I get 7 cards, among which is a Jeska's Will, before starting to ping the table with the Buccaneer until Cicada dies. I then start digging to see if I can end the game here. I get Callahan down to 6, and my draws were horrible. As I can't pitch anything else, I try to storm off to try and win manually, because that is my life now. I cast Jeweled Lotus, Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, I get a Chain of Vapor for my rocks, and then reveal a Grape Shot to take out Callahan. GG.
Boy oh boy, that was the clutchest of wins, and a really great one on Scoots here. Punchies and non-deterministic pings getting these pirates their well-earned booty. especially after managing to get a deflecting swat for the peer into the abyss. The game really showed the power of flat card advantage and how it both drives and pushes the table. If everyone started fast, with Claire pulling slightly ahead due to the fast storm potential of Rakdos, the table stabilizing and finding ways to start racking up more card draw showed that weathering the storm can turn the table completely. This is why decks like Prosper really need to find the tools to prevent instant speed interaction or not allow the Rhystic Studies and Mystic Remorse in our lives to stick. Otherwise, they might end up taking up the match. Don't get it wrong though, Scoot's getting that deflecting swat was extremely close and Claire did the best with the windows she had. The greed on my end also didn't help as I let the Remora die to set up a winning turn with Kykar. I was heavily punished for it as a result. And finally, Callahan had a lot of excellent tools on their hand, as decks with Tymna and Thrasios do, but wasn't very fortunate as far as finding ways to end the game or to interact at the clutchest points. It was a game where every play counted, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much to Callahan, my fellow Mind Sculptor, for joining us this week. We had an absolute blast. 60% of our original footage was just us laughing and being joyful. We also want to thank you, our watchers, and once again remind everyone that every like and subscribe and also comment will boost our channel's relevance and really help us get more traction and stuff out there. We hope you're enjoying this format, and we're hoping for all of your constructive criticism in the comments below. Until our next match, I have been Scoots, and on behalf of everyone here at Who Brewed This, keep your games spicy and your life spicier. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. We're out.